It's not about choosing automation or connection. It's just about designing the right mix. And so trying to find that balance, and the temptation with AI is to automate everything to make it all AI. But the reality is employees still need moments, like you said, where they feel seen, where they feel supported.
They keep telling us that it's all over for HR. The age of AI is upon us, and that means HR should be prepared to be decimated. We reject that message. The future of HR won't be handed to us. Instead, it'll be defined by those ready to experiment, adopt, and adapt. Future Proof HR invites these builders to share what they're trying, how it's going, what they've learned, and what's next. We are committed to arming HR with the AI insights to not just survive, but to thrive. Hello and welcome to the Future Proof HR podcast, where we explore how forward-thinking HR leaders are preparing for disruption and redefining what it means to lead people in a changing world. I'm your host, Thomas Kunjappu, CEO of Cleary. Today's guest is Camille Wright, the Director of Human Resources at American Health Marketplace, a health insurance marketplace or marketing agency navigating hypergrowth in a volatile regulatory environment. Camille leads HR across a fully distributed U.S. workforce and is spearheading one of the most aggressive AI transformations in HR we've seen. From AI-driven recruiting and onboarding to chatbot-enabled people operations and automated sales coaching, she's not just adapting, she's accelerating. Camille, welcome to the podcast and welcome to the present from the future that you've been living in.
Thank you, Thomas. Thanks for having me. It's exciting.
Absolutely. So could you give us a little bit of context about AHM and just the scale at which you're working, the seasonality of what the business is, and because that's going to be a straight input into probably the rest of the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are, like you said before, a health insurance marketing agency. 95% of our employees are remote all throughout the US. So like you said before, distributed workforce. And we work in the ACA space. So we provide health insurance to individuals under the age of 65 through the marketplace. And we have our peak seasons. One of those is open enrollment. So from November 1st all the way through January 15th, where we have a short period of time to get as many individuals out there enrolled, right? So we bring in a large number of employees. For instance, last year we brought in over 1,000 licensed health insurance agents for that season. And then we taper off throughout the year and cut that down to about 600. But that is what it looks like for those few months. We ramp up really quickly and have to get them interviewed, hired, trained, and ready to be on the phones to support all of our clients.
And I'll just underline again, and that's all being done in a remote environment, which obviously makes all of this even tougher. So you got seasonality, we've got remote, and we've got obviously timeline pressure to deliver on value, because that's just how the business works, right? People need to, get presents, eat for Thanksgiving, get presents for Christmas, and also get enrolled for health insurance, and all this happen in a particular time. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot. So then let's start with, okay, so like last year or like the year before, how do you like just typically do this? How do you make sure this happens? What does that workload look like for your HR team? Because that's almost like the before. And then we can talk a little bit about how you've shifted that in a second.
Yeah. So we had a lot of overtime. I'm going to tell you that, a lot of workload. And our managers played a big role in that. And because they are the hiring managers, they're bringing in for their teams. So they have really large teams during that period of time. They have around 60 team members. That span of control. Imagine that, right? So they go in and we would have different hiring sessions. We'd have all day hiring sessions, and that's all virtually done. So our team would have to go out, source, review resumes. We're looking at 5,000 resumes, applicants on a daily basis. We're getting in more than 1,000 applications that are coming in, and they have to review, check those resumes, validate Are they licensed? Are they still licensed? Do the pre-screening conversation. Is this person going to be fit for this role? And then set up those interviews with the hiring managers, coordinating the times and just having all day interview sessions, all day, on top of managers having to do their regular workload because we still have our employees who are working normally, their normal 9 to 5 schedule. So you're managing those team members and you're also having to hire and bring in people and still doing that. And so that's what it was looking like. The number of I-9s that you have to do.
Yeah. Every single thing. And yes, and the manager has the other 59 employees to worry about also.
Right.
So a lot of work. Interestingly, it's actually a ton of extra work for managers, not just the HR team, to ensure that this is all like happening. So we'll come back to that in transformation in 1 second, but I want to open another thread, which is just AI. And this is concept that you guys as an organization have shifted towards saying, I don't know if it's a mandate, but at least that's just how you're operating, right? We're going to be like leaning in towards this. So tell me how that's happened at AHM at a kind of a corporate level and how that's translated down into you for the HR strategy.
Yeah. So our leaders announced, hey, our CIO wanted to do an AI first initiative. And so a lot of the other functions, a lot of the other departments, you may have thought, or some people may think, okay, let's find a tool and plug it in, that's AI. Okay, everyone's going to use ChatGPT. But we heard it as, how do we make AI a part of the DNA of HR, not just an add-on? So I started mapping out where HR had its biggest pain points. And that's where we started. Where are our employees feeling the most friction? It's recruiting, onboarding, everyday HR questions. And sat down and said, hey, here's what HR can create with AI, and it will give some real value for us. It's not just some new shiny tech and just like this buzzword everyone's using around, right? But we're actually solving the bottlenecks that slow us down. So that's how we ended up launching both the AI recruiting platform and then our HR chatbot. It wasn't about aligning with tools. It was about building that trust. And our CIO wanted us to have that speed, that innovation, that efficiency. And so we had to balance. It's really hard with HR because you're always wanting to balance compliance, fairness, and an employee experience. But then you also want to align with whatever that goal is of the organization. So I position us more as a bridge. And then we experimented boldly. So we did test rigorously. So bias, we validated those workflows, making sure that every rollout was made better for humans and not just easier for machines. And so the result was that us as HR within our team wasn't just us keeping up with the mandate that was given to us by our CIO, but we were leading parts of it. And that's the advice I give any HR leader is if you have your executive team is pushing any type of AI initiative, don't wait to be told what to do or what to implement. Partner with them. Start bringing your pain points to the table, and then you can shape some strategy together.
And I love how clear you are on the pain points because it's okay. You want us to do AI? Great. Here's what we need to solve. Recruiting, onboarding, and employee questions.
Yeah.
And let's go at it together. And you found partnerships internally within the organization to help you navigate, right? So you talked about two things that end up, I keep hearing about them, trip up HR leaders along the way. So one is compliance, risk, and just atrophy, I would say, right? But this, that, or the other. So let's not really move forward. You obviously got over that. And then the other aspect is actually figuring out who to partner with externally and also who to partner with internally to actually get something rolled out. Because there's a lot, obviously, to go from, oh yeah, I got these pain points and I know there's these shiny things out there to actually it delivering some value, right? So can you just go through both of those points for you from your perspective? So one is just uh, getting over getting over is not the right phrasing, but how do you ensure that you're um, uh, thinking about compliance and risk mitigation appropriately when you're evaluating new technology and just completely new approaches or processes?
Yeah.
We'll start with that.
So a little thing about my executive team is that they love to move fast. They come up with a great idea and they want it to happen now. And I love that energy because it allows us to move quickly, be the first to market with ideas. But part of my job, and any HR professional out there would say, is to make sure we don't confuse speed with sustainability and we're not sprinting off a cliff. So when that came out of rolling out AI, I made sure to add a human checkpoint. Is this compliant? Is it fair? How will it feel to an employee on the other end? I frame it as protecting scale, because if you cut corners now, you'll pay for it later in turnover or lawsuits. And so when we rolled out AI, for example, they wanted to scale it everywhere overnight. Let's do this. Let's do it now.
Yeah.
My HR lens said, okay, let's pause just long enough, not too long, but just long enough to test for biases, right? We have that bias, that internal bias, validate compliance, stress test the candidate experience. Let's try to break it. I don't frame it as slowing down, because anytime an HR rep goes to the executive team, you're stopping us. HR is always stopping us, right? Don't frame it as slowing down. I frame it as protecting sustainability. And so if we skip those steps, we may fill a job fast, but we're inviting all other types of risks. We're inviting that bias, and it will undermine us later. So I think of myself as the brakes on a race car. Not to slow it down, but to make sure that it actually makes it around the track and finish the race. So key point for any HR professional working with executive teams that want to roll out something new, and especially in that AI space, and our compliance hat, which is our base foundation in HR, that's the bottom line, is compliance, right? Is having that balance and not being, a stopgap, but keeping with speed and making sure that foundation is solid. So that's how we earn our seat at the strategy table, because we're not stopping it. We're just guiding that energy and not blocking it.
Okay. I love that. We'll talk more in depth about that as we go to the recruiting overhauls that you've done. But then what about that second piece of that? So you talked about working with as the brakes, but then you want to move forward and get to actual success, because a big struggle, I think, for a lot of your peers is, okay, how, like, the vendor landscape is so complex, things are constantly changing. I don't even have time to learn about this, or I know one of my team has time to go evaluate something. It's like we need, like consultants to help do that, to the point of getting to actual value, right? And even with a test and all that. Like, what thoughts do you have about generically for an AI kind of project to go from, okay, idea and buy-in to, like, okay, now look, we've drove some real results. It's been this much time. How do you actually get to success? Because a lot of people get stuck in saying, oh yeah, I need to use like AI and we're going to do like something. And maybe we even have budget to do something. But then you get stuck for any number of reasons between vendor evaluation, who do I partner with internally to actually make this happen? What resources do I use within my HR team to actually do an evaluation or do an implementation? Who needs to be trained? Which vendor do I choose properly? How do I manage risk? The rollouts. There's a million things that need to happen. And it could be for any one of those reasons. A lot of people just say, let's not do anything, or let's wait. Let's wait and see. You haven't done that. How do you solve any one of these problems, or where, obviously you have to overcome some of these things or make decisions to get to a point where things are rolled out. Employees are using this stuff. Your HR team is ideally finding value, and it all looks good. So what advice do you have for anyone who's like stuck in the, let's even assume there's budget and there's, quote, high level alignment on, yeah, go ahead. Like, what do you do next? And how do you unblock to success?
I would definitely say, one, for us, we had a mandate from our executive team. So we already had the buy-in. They already saw the value. in AI. And so it was a lot easier for us than it may be for other organizations that are fighting against AI. So your first step would have that buy-in from your executive team. That's your first level of step. And then looking throughout your organization and seeing who can be those stakeholders to be a part of this conversation. It was just not an HR conversation. We included our tech team. We included our development team. We included our operations team. We included our sales team, our care team. Everyone was sitting a part of this conversation. And we talked about the pain points. And we didn't talk about, hey, here's some shiny new tech that we want to roll out. We talked about the pain points. These are the issues. And then you have people, when they hear, yes, that's a problem for me, they are now fighting for it. They're pushing for it, and they're helping you, and they're part of the process now. And so where there wasn't any time before, there now becomes time because other individuals are raising their hands. You start learning about team members who may have a different role than what their position is in, but on the side, they do coding. I don't know. They have a coding certification, but their job is something completely different. And those team members are now able to step in and provide that support that you thought, oh, I don't have anyone to help me, or I don't have anyone to support me in this, but you have other team members that are now a part of it. And then because you have executive buy-in, you're able to get that done. So it was something that we found the pain point affected across the entire organization. And presenting it that way, we got that buy-in. And we got people who wanted to be involved and raise their hands to be a part of it. So
can you tell me for context, who are the kinds of people, like their backgrounds and like their skill sets, that were both raising their hands, that wanted to be involved, and also were helpful?
Yeah. So for instance, when we were looking at tech, we were looking at what vendor to use. Our director of asset protection, nothing to do with tech. He loves tech on the side, loves to do tech things with his son. He raised his hand and say, hey, I'll jump in and I'll try all the vendors, and didn't really have a lot of HR background, but knew, because we had those meetings, we had those discussions, this is what we're looking for. This is what needs to check the box, right? And he was able to go in and assess these things for us and come back and say, hey, this is what we found. This is what I'm seeing. These are the things. And then we go and we all discuss, and everyone had some input when we would get our touch point meetings on, does it have this? Is it missing this? And we were all aligned. And our marketing team was a part of that, right? They were also a part of it. How do we roll this out to the employees? Everyone was a part of the conversation, and it was exciting. They wanted to solve a problem. So
this has been a fantastic conversation so far. If you haven't already done so, make sure to join our community. We're building a network of the most forward-thinking HR and people operations professionals who are defining the future. I will personally be sharing news and ideas around how we can all thrive in the age of AI. You can find it at gocleary.com/Cleary-community. Now back to the show. It's amazing. So it's like getting this team. It's a cross-functional team because it's company-wide to really hone in on this problem. Yeah, if you have the right context, which you shared by everyone being aligned on the pain points, someone from a completely different function is able to take on some of the load.
Yeah.
So let's go much deeper into just this one use case around recruiting, because we started talking a bit about how you have this pressure every year because you got to get a ton of people who are qualified to do the job for a few months of the year. And I think you were describing it as all-day sessions for managers doing recruiting, doing interview work. And I think this year it's a similar kind of demand that you'll have for labor, for people to come in and help out. So what's been that process for you on the recruiting side between the end of the last cycle and what you've transformed into this one?
Ooh, it's like a breath of fresh air. All that pressure off the shoulders. I feel like we lost 30 pounds just from changing that whole transitioning, because think about it. We were trying to hire 1,000 people in a matter of weeks. And That's the reality in the peak season for contact centers, and especially in any peak season that you have. But in this industry at all, people are leaving it burnt out. Our managers were tied up in interviews all day. Recruiters were chasing scheduling. Everything was slowed down. And then now it's completely different, right? Candidates don't wait for the recruiters because it's already pre-screened. They can log in and interview at any hour. So there were some individuals who wanted to transition out of jobs, so they couldn't interview during their regular 9 to 5. And then we would have to find different schedules for them at a 6 o'clock, or they would have to take their lunch break to do the interview. Now you can interview at any time, 2 p.m., 2 a.m., whenever it fits you, right? They go through the knockout questions that automatically qualify or disqualify them. Their licensing statuses are validated, which is very important, and that's done instantly. Then we move into the AI-led interview, and we've gone through so much testing and training. So the AI is listening for the pitch, the tone, how the candidate is answering those role-specific questions. So it's not just about checking those boxes, but it's also analyzing and evaluating the quality of those responses. And then this is the part that I love the most, Thomas. And I'm like, this is great. The candidate gets an immediate decision. There's no, I'm going to wait a week. We'll follow up with you on Friday. We'll get back to you. You have to wait days to hear back from someone. For a candidate, that experience is so much better than waiting and, biting your nails and I get the role. They're finding out instantly. So that for me was a huge impact.
Hang on, Camille. So I just want to make sure I understand this. I have my day job.
Yeah.
I'm a night owl, like log on at 2 a.m. I want to interview or put in my application. I have the simple questions, the yes, no questions, as well as the certification thing. So now that's like you're qualified to do the thing. And then to do the actual interview, theoretically. Does that happen instantly? Or is that now, am I scheduling a different time to do that?
That is
So at like 2:15, I could be doing now the interview. And now you're saying the best part is that candidates get a decision immediately. So maybe by however long that takes, 2:30, 2:45, I've gotten through it. Is that decision saying like, yes, you've passed the AI round and now we're going to schedule some time with the manager to do the next step?
No, this is welcome to the team. You are receiving an offer. You're hired. And as long as you're residing in this state and your license is actually valid, then you would continue. You would move forward in the next step in the process. So, yeah.
Okay. So there are no humans involved in the interview process anymore from the company's perspective, not even a recruiter from the HR function or even a manager.
No.
So let's look at this from multiple perspectives because this is beyond what I've seen out there. It's as like, just innovation, like you're going all the way to 100, right? When you remove everything from the process.
Told you it's the race car.
Yes, it is. All right. So first of all, tell me, where are the breaks in this process? Because you want to have the breaks in the background, right? Typically, you think you hear about the concept of human in the loop for a lot of AI-driven processes where it's like you use AI and then you have a human check the work to make sure that it's okay, because otherwise you're open to hallucination or bias or, just all types of things. Where does that, when you put that obvious HR hat on, from a compliance
So there are different points within that the candidate does not see. So candidate facing, they don't see this portion that I'm going through, but they do get the conditional offer. Our licensing and contracting team does go back and validate, are they actually licensed? Is that actually valid? And so that's why they receive that conditional offer. And then we also go back on the back end. Our recruiting team is looking and auditing through what were the responses, how did they respond, what does the resume look like. We're still auditing on the back end. And we're looking at everyone. We're looking at individuals who were disqualified, that were not hired. We're looking at individuals who were hired. So we're looking to see, are any biases coming up? Is the AI automatically rejecting people for certain reasons? And if we're finding that, we're pulling them back and we're going back and connecting with that candidate with our human interaction after we're checking on the back end. So that's something that they don't see on the end, but we're still doing our compliance and our audit check in the back.
Fascinating. The first part about the compliance checks, that's similar to background check as a standard. You've got this offer, assuming the background check comes in clear,
Correct.
which will take, it's like on par with, I feel like, what's been going on in general. But then the actual like, interview, your recruiting team has gone from conducting these interviews to like playing the tape, reviewing the interview as like a secondary check to ensure that it fits the standard that you have. Let's look at it from the
Thomas, we're still looking. AI is still very new, right? So we still want to keep checking and making sure, just like you do any audit in any HR function, you do your annual audits. We're still auditing, but we're doing that continuously right now while we're in the present to see, and we're still training it. We're still training our AI to make sure that those unconscious bias doesn't come up from us, because us as humans, we don't realize we have that. So we're trying to train it away from that.
So let's look at it from the candidate's perspective. I think you positioned it as, hey, this is great. And that's true. If I get an offer at 2:30 in the morning after that, I'm like, oh, that feels great. But do you also feel like, did I really get an offer? What is this, did this just happen? Or is there, broadly speaking, the, I guess the criticism of AI driven recruitment is that it takes the human element out of the process, specifically making it worse for the candidate experience. Um, have you seen that kind of or kind of like pushback, or has there been negative? I mean, there's always some candidates who will have a negative experience, and you try to minimize that. But how did you think about that from a candidate perspective as you were designing this, and especially just getting to the point of like fully no human to offer?
So that's a question that I wrestle with the most, because especially as an HR professional, you always talk about connection, and it's not about choosing automation or connection. It's just about designing the right mix. And so trying to find that balance, and the temptation with AI is to automate everything to make it all AI. But the reality is employees still need moments, like you said, where they feel seen, where they feel supported. So we want to interject, and we try to interject some of that in there. That welcome call, they still get that welcome call. But throughout that recruiting process, it is just AI. So we try to make that balance in there where they get that human interaction, but we're still leveraging AI.
Um, and is there a feedback loop then that you're considering from the candidates in that to ensure that's as solid as possible?
Absolutely. In HR, we always have our feedback loop. So we have our
Yeah.
surveys all throughout the process. We absolutely do. So we do ask for feedback throughout the entire process to see.
So you're watching this like a hawk, like yes, you're watching this like a hawk, like every step. It's almost like Venjo, our producer here. He's in the background. You're like making sure that everything is going well, even though you're not really in the actual interview front and center yourself as like a recruiter. So then let's actually talk about that other stakeholder, then recruiters, the recruiting team.
Yeah.
So what impact has that had on the recruiting team, and like what they're doing day to day? Obviously, you're starting to get at how that's like different, but how does recruiting look like if this is potentially going to be the path of the future?
Yeah. So that's where it got a little personal for me, because we have a really tight knit relationship with all my team members. And by putting in this AI, we realized that AI was doing about 80% of the recruiting function for the contact center roles. And so that means we didn't need the same size TA team anymore. So it was really hard. It's never an easy call to let team members go. So we did have to reduce headcount in some areas. However, in other areas where the workload was diminishing because of AI, like our people ops team, we were very intentional about how we reinvested their time. So we didn't just cut everyone. We said, okay, how can we grow new capability in HR? And so our people ops team, who would have had less hours, cut down to probably part-time, if they continue just keeping the mindset of doing just that admin transactional work, and they no longer had to do the paperwork anymore because now we're leveraging technology like Workbright that did the advanced documentation verification for I-9s. What can we do with these team members? So we were able to focus less on doing that administrative work and more on coaching managers, supporting the leaders. So we had that trade-off. We developed them, upskilled them, and then they're now at a higher function than they were before, right? And so our people ops teams, where it would have taken someone 3 years to probably move up in a role, they're now getting more intentional training that's allowing them to level up a lot quicker and have better opportunities and support the company on a strategic level and be more of a strategic advisor than a transactional specialist.
So if I were going to take that one step further, and if you were going to give advice to, a recruiter or a people operations generalist or manager about how they can invest in their own career to keep future-proofing themselves, to be as relevant as possible in the future of the HR function, what advice would you have for someone like that?
For someone in that initial role, like a HR.
Yeah, or more importantly, like what does that future role look like, or what kind of capabilities or qualities would someone have that would be successful?
I would say critical thinking skills, being able to pivot, focusing more on coaching, strategy building, problem solving, not just those transactional tasks. Because those things can be replaced by AI, those repetitive stuff.
Right.
And I would say for them to try and go more into and learn more and lean more into doing the things that really is the good stuff in HR, which I call is the strategy, the culture building, the leadership coaching, all of that.
Got it. And so then coming back to the recruiting project, let's look at another set of stakeholders, an important one, managers. So managers have gone from those full day interview sourcing and interview sessions to something pretty different this year around. So how does that shifted, and how exactly did you prepare? Because managers is a huge point of leverage for any organization and in any HR function trying to make change. So how did you prepare managers for what they're doing in this year in crunch time?
So the managers, they originally during this time, this peak season, they would feel chained to their interviews. They would feel drained. And so we used to have to come up with a lot of engagement things to get them motivated, get them pumped and ready for the season. With now having AI at the forefront end in this process, we were able to give them back their time. And so they're not having that burnout anymore, right? And they're able to focus more on their teams and building their teams and doing more with their teams. So it's not just, okay, AI is doing the automation, but it's now giving us time back to unlock that, human energy that we need for work that really matters.
Wow. And then how about from an executive function kind of perspective? What's been the feedback or thoughts on this whole project?
Anything to save money, right? So if you're going to be more efficient, more productive, they're all for it. And so it's a huge cost savings. And then they also have team members who are at a higher level. So you have team members that would add way more value and the ROI is a lot higher because they're upskilled, they're leveling up, and they're not doing any of these repetitive things that they don't see a value in. And you always have to try and explain that this is a part of HR. It's traditional HR.
Right.
Now that traditional HR is no longer traditional HR, right? So the executive team loves it.
We've been talking about this massive transformation with a significant AI usage in your recruiting function, but we talked a lot about the the guardrails and the boundaries that you've set around it. And also it's specifically for the contact center role
Mhm.
and specifically for this crunch. So it bears pointing out that every other kind of role, the recruiting function, it's a very different process,
Absolutely.
how you're going through it. So that's a jump off point to my question of how do you think about trade-offs, around the between like automation and like, let's say like human connection across the employee experience, right? Whenever you're thinking about how we can use AI or software or automation, like what are the trade-offs? And when you kind of go on one side, like you did here, right,
Mhm.
for contact center recruiting for the crunch time, we got to go all in versus others, maybe you're not as much.
I would say, like I said, before, it's the right mix, not having that trade-off, just having that right balance. You talked about your guy in the background. So let's say like you let automation handle all that background stuff, keeping things moving. Um, but those human moments, that's when we have to stand out and that's for when it really matters. And so understanding when those standout human moments, when that is, and making sure that you're standing out there and when to have automation and AI handle the background. So understanding the difference and making sure that that balance is there. And so you're able to have the employees feel both empowered and then they're empowered by that tech, and then you're still caring for their people. And you're also meeting your employees where they are, right? So providing them with what that need. So for instance, we have the AI chatbot, and I'm thinking, hey, this may come off a little cold. There's no connection. We're not. But at the end of the day, employees can log in and talk to the bot on a weekend when HR is not available and get the answers what they need and solve what they need without us and waiting for us for 3 days or 24 hours or whatever to respond to them. We're meeting them where they need to be
Mhm.
with. And so being there for them where we need to be. And I think that's important, having that balance.
That's a great point. You're actually improving the employee experience in that case, right? Where you're getting immediate support. And even if it's not even 100% correct answer, if you had something available when the person needed it, which is impractical, especially at scale, to be
Yes.
like always around. So, uh, once, especially for the contact center employees, once they get hired, I know you told me about how then there's a whole other experience around onboarding that you kind of got into specifically around sales coaching. Uh, how's been the uptake from new employees who maybe haven't been using anything like that to just converse with some kind of AI to help them in any job that might be new for most people, and also makes the manager role a little bit like different.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
how is that aspect of onboarding and learning and development shifted for you?
I don't have the answer for that. I can say that it is new for us. What that looks like is we have AI doing our compliance. So it's listening to those calls and it's giving back the feedback. And the employees are getting a daily AI personal coach that connects with them and says, hey, this is what I found. This is what you can do to help you get better, to hit your metrics or meet this KPI. And so it's coaching them throughout the process and it's pulling those KPIs and looking at that. But then also when they're going through their training, they're doing all of their learning at their pace in our learning management system. So they're using that, and some people learn differently and at different speeds than others. And so we're giving them the ability to learn at their pace. And so they have that pathway, they follow that pathway and they complete it as they can. And then they go into simulations where they're getting conversations and they're interacting with the AI as if it was a person. It's a simulated and how they handle it. And it's giving them live feedback after. And so for them, it's now the pressure is off. Imagine going into a job like I remember in college when I had a part-time job on a phone, on a call, and when you get that first call right in your nesting period, anybody who's done any contact center role and you're in your nesting period and you get that first call from the customer and you're like, oh, hold on, maybe that's their first day. And then they tell you, like, always say it's your first day. They feel better. You're like, okay, it's my third month.
They're lying to me this whole time.
But that takes away that edge, that anxiety from,
And
working in that environment. You're now more comfortable. You're more at peace. That stress is gone because it's AI. It's not a real person. And so that level of fear is gone and you can just be yourself. You can be natural and that those nerves are not there. And so now you're creating an environment of learning that's not stress induced. And your employees,
amazing.
they'll strive better and do better because when they do get on the floor, they're like, oh, I had AI do that to me last week. I know how to handle this. And so I think the experience is a lot better for employees. It's lowering that level of stress for them, that level of anxiety of I have to perform while I'm in nesting and it's live and it's pressured. And I think it creates a really great employee experience. And if I had that when I was in college, I would have loved it.
Yeah, so that's super interesting. So then, can we look forward a bit then, Camille? What's next in terms of pain points, things that you want to solve for, or you think could be solved for better for the HR function looking ahead with AI or otherwise? What else is on your plate?
Right now, we are fully into recruiting and seeing how that works, and then supporting performance management wise on that coaching and preparing our managers on how to have those coaching conversations and managing performance. That's our next big push. And so maybe leveraging AI and having possibly a chat where the manager types in a situation where this is what's going on. I need some help. So that's the idea. I don't know where it's going to go.
Fascinating.
Pain point right now are managers being put in positions because we're really huge about internal mobility, but are they prepared? And you hear a lot about that accidental manager and you want them to be prepared. So giving those managers, just like how we give our agents the simulation on dealing with clients, we want to build something like that for our managers on how to work with team members and give great feedback and build trust and, have that psychological safety and how to do that and what that looks like. So that's the next project.
Sounds exciting. It seems like you're just following the employee journey, down and seeing how you can infuse AI into all of these different aspects in a way that is delightful, and it's making the candidate or employee experience at least as good, if not better, with said intervention. So, do you have any final thoughts about just the future of the profession then? So, not your organization or the current project, but if we're projecting a few years out, what is different about the HR function? Is the executive team looking for different things from us, or our candidates or employees? Are they going to, basically ask for different things from the function? And does the function kind of shift? Are there different titles or just skill sets? Like, how do you see it evolving?
I remember I heard something, someone said we're in a microwave society. And I think that's where we're heading with HR, where they being our employees want instant gratification, instant access, instant. So I think we're in the traditional HR where those transactional things, onboarding paperwork, those questions that our chatbot is asking that they normally send an email. Employees are no longer going to want to wait on these things. They're going to want it instant. They're going to want it right away. And I think our executive team also is going to want us to be more on the strategy side, more strategic, and providing a lot more support towards the business. And so that's where I see us going in that direction. Contact centers, especially if they follow this path of AI and leveraging AI, it would be transformational are seasonal ramp ups because when you're in a contact center, you go through all those seasonal ramp ups and it's across the board, historically, chaos and burnout. And I think if they do adapt anything with AI and leverage AI, I see the transition happening where managers are no longer burnt out. There's not that chaos. I see them spending more time developing their teams, coaching, and seeing more ROI. They're going to see a lot more efficiency, a lot more productivity following that trend.
Thank you for sharing that because I think you have some insight because you're already living in the future more than many of us out there. So, uh, how can people best connect with you, Camille, or follow your work? Is LinkedIn the best way?
The best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn.
Okay. So we'll have a link in the show notes for those who want to follow along with Camille's journey. And uh, clearly, there's a lot of irons you have in the fire. Thank you for going through that very detailed, almost case study of how you made this transformation and how far to the edges you're pushing the process with recruiting specifically, and uh, yet being very thoughtful about it so that every different stakeholder is coming out ahead, really, when it comes down to it. So it's always fascinating to hear people who are actually going from the promise to real life stories. And I hope to check in with you next year to see that it's all been, up and to the right as expected. But thank you for also sharing about how the whole function, not just recruiting, but just all of a lot of the HR, you're still there behind the scenes, watching and making sure that everything is working out properly, both for compliance, but also to ensure that the experience is still top notch for whoever the stakeholders at whatever stage that that we're talking about. So, with all that said, thank you once again, Camille, for joining and sharing all of your insights today. And for everyone out there who's following along on the Future Proof HR podcast, thanks. And I will see you next time. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Future Proof HR. If you like the discussion, make sure you leave us a 5-star review on the platform you're listening to or watching us on. Or share this with a friend or colleague who may find value in the message. See you next time as we keep our pulse on how we can all thrive in the age of AI. Hey, it's Thomas again. One quick question before you go. Are you and your HR team tired of answering the same employee questions again and again in Slack? If yes, our Cleary AI-powered Slack bot is here to help. It takes routine employee requests and answers it automatically while freeing up time for you to take on more important tasks. At the same time, it automatically builds up an HR knowledge base as you go. It's quick to set up, works right in Slack, and you can try it for free. Just head on over to gocleary.com/HR-chatbot to install it. It's again, gocleary.com/HR-chatbot. Thanks again.